Welcome to BS USA Radio. We present our video for your enjoyment. Like this video if it was entertaining, subscribe.
We dive deep into the concept of war crimes and their implications under international law. War crimes are some of the most serious violations of human rights and international humanitarian law, and understanding them is crucial in the pursuit of justice and accountability. We will explore the different categories of war crimes, such as targeting civilians, using prohibited weapons, and committing acts of torture or inhumane treatment. We will also discuss the importance of holding individuals and states accountable for their actions during armed conflicts. Join us as we decode the complexities of war crimes under international law and shed light on the principles that guide the prosecution of these heinous acts. If you are interested in learning more about the legal framework surrounding war crimes and the efforts to combat impunity, this video is for you. Don't miss out on this informative discussion. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on international law and human rights. War crimes are serious violations of international humanitarian law committed during armed conflicts. These crimes are particularly heinous because they target civilians, humanitarian workers, or other protected persons. Examples of war crimes include intentionally killing civilians, torture, and using chemical weapons. In order to hold perpetrators accountable, the international community established the Geneva Conventions and the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. These legal frameworks outline what constitutes a war crime and how perpetrators can be prosecuted. It's important to understand that war crimes are not limited to just soldiers on the battlefield. Commanding officers, government officials, and even corporations can also be held responsible for their involvement in war crimes. United Nations Office on Genocide Prevention and the responsibility to protect states this direct quote. Definition: Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Article 8. War crimes. The court shall have jurisdiction in respect of war crimes in particular when committed as part of a plan or policy or as part of a large-scale commission of such crimes. For the purpose of this statute, war crimes means grave breaches of the Geneva Conventions of 12 August 1949, namely any of the following acts against persons or property protected under the provisions of the relevant Geneva Convention: willful killing, torture or inhuman treatment, including biological experiments, willfully causing great suffering or serious injury to body or health, extensive destruction and appropriation of property, not justified by military necessity and carried out unlawfully and wantonly, compelling a prisoner of war or other protected person to serve in the forces of a hostile power, willfully depriving a prisoner of war or other protected person of the rights of fair and regular trial, unlawful deportation or transfer or unlawful confinement, taking of hostages, other serious violations of the laws and customs applicable in international armed conflict within the established framework of international law, namely any of the following acts: intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population as such or against individual civilians, not taking direct part in hostilities, intentionally directing attacks against civilian objects, that is, objects which are not military objectives, intentionally directing attacks against personnel, installations, material, units or vehicles involved in a humanitarian assistance or peacekeeping mission in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations, as long as they are entitled to the protection given to civilians or civilian objects under the international law of armed conflict. Intentionally launching an attack in the knowledge that such attack will cause incidental loss of life or injury to civilians or damage to civilian objects or widespread, long-term and severe damage to the natural environment, which would be clearly excessive in relation to the concrete and direct overall military advantage anticipated. Attacking or bombarding, by whatever means, towns, villages, dwellings or buildings which are undefended and which are not military objectives. Killing or wounding a combatant who, having laid down his arms or having no longer means of defense, has surrendered at discretion. Making improper use of a flag of truce, of the flag or of the military insignia and uniform of the enemy or of the United Nations, as well as of the distinctive emblems of the Geneva Conventions, resulting in death or serious personal injury. The transfer, directly or indirectly, by the occupying power of parts of its own civilian population into the territory it occupies, or the deportation or transfer of all or parts of the population of the occupied territory within or outside this territory. Intentionally directing attacks against buildings dedicated to religion, education, art, science, or charitable purposes, historic monuments, hospitals, and places where the sick and wounded are collected, provided they are not military objectives. Subjecting persons who are in the power of an adverse party to physical mutilation, or to medical or scientific experiments of any kind which are neither justified by the medical, dental, or hospital treatment of the person concerned, nor carried out in his or her interest, and which cause death to or seriously endanger the health of such person or persons. Killing or wounding treacherously individuals belonging to the hostile nation or army, declaring that no quarter will be given, destroying or seizing the enemy's property, unless such destruction or seizure be imperatively demanded by the necessities of war, declaring abolished, suspended, or inadmissible in a court of law the rights and actions of the nationals of the hostile party, compelling the nationals of the hostile party to take part in the operations of war directed against their own country, even if they were in the belligerent service before the commencement of the war, pillaging a town or place, even when taken by assault, employing poison or poisoned weapons, employing asphyxiating, poisonous, or other gases, and all analogous liquids, materials, or devices, employing bullets which expand or flatten easily in the human body, such as bullets with a hard envelope which does not entirely cover the core or is pierced with incisions, employing weapons, projectiles, and material and methods of warfare which are of a nature to cause superfluous injury or unnecessary suffering, or which are inherently indiscriminate in violation of the international law of armed conflict, provided that such weapons, projectiles, and material and methods of warfare are the subject of a comprehensive prohibition and are included in an annex to this statute by an amendment in accordance with the relevant provisions set forth in Articles 121 and 123. Committing outrages upon personal dignity, in particular humiliating and degrading treatment. Committing rape, sexual slavery, enforced prostitution, forced pregnancy, as defined in Article 7, Paragraph 2F, enforced sterilization, or any other form of sexual violence also constituting a grave breach of the Geneva Conventions. Utilizing the presence of a civilian or other protected person to render certain points, areas, or military forces immune from military operations. Intentionally directing attacks against buildings, material, medical units and transport, and personnel using the distinctive emblems of the Geneva Conventions in conformity with international law. Intentionally using starvation of civilians as a method of warfare by depriving them of objects indispensable to their survival, including willfully impeding relief supplies as provided for under the Geneva Conventions. Conscripting or enlisting children under the age of 15 years into the national armed forces, or using them to participate actively in hostilities. By decoding war crimes under international law, we can ensure that justice is served and prevent future atrocities from occurring. Thanks for watching the video and subscribe to our channel for more informative content on global issues. Stay informed, stay empowered.